Hello, my friends. Good afternoon if you're here with me on the East Coast, and good morning if you're a little further west. It's unusual for me to be popping on a Monday in the middle of the day because typically this is a very long client day for me. I start in the morning and I go till about 6 p.m. But as things happen, today is a little bit unusual. Perhaps it's all the planets in Mercury, or all of the planets in retrograde. I'm not sure, but my first three clients of the day canceled. So I found myself sort of trying to decide what to do. It's not that I don't have plenty of things that I could be doing. But I wanted to, I went into meditation and really allowed myself to be inspired as to what to do with this time that I was given sort of as a gift. And I was drawn initially to do a practice. So I don't know if you're familiar with this book. It's called The Magic, and I want to shout out to my friend Orchid for bringing it to my attention a few weeks ago. It was written by Rhonda Byrne, who, if you're familiar with the movie or the book The Secret, she's the one who sort of produced, I don't know if she wrote, but she's certainly the one who produced the movie The Secret. And she has a series of books, and The Magic is one of them. And it's actually a 28-day gratitude practice, which I am practicing, which I'm doing right now. And I'm on day 12. And the practice, there's several different things that you do each day. One in the morning, just before you go to sleep, and then a practice that you use all day. And today's magic practice was to find a quiet place and make a list of 3 people who made a difference in your life. And then working through one person at a time, speak out loud to each person, telling them the reason that you are grateful for them in your life and very specifically how they have impacted you. And so I read this last night. I usually read the next day's practice the night before in case it involves doing something first thing in the morning. And so I read it last night and I thought, oh, who am I gonna choose? Do I really have? So I was sort of in this little weird place in my head last night. And so when I was guided to sit down and do it this morning, when I had a little bit of time, I immediately had 3 names pop up for me. And I was a little bit surprised at who they were, and yet they were perfect. And one was a woman who was the director of the region that I worked in when I was at the Department of Children and Family Services. And so, June, if you're listening, you were on my list this morning. It was many years ago, but I'm very grateful to her for having seen something in me and supported me and encouraged me. And allowed me to have opportunities that were really important for me at the time. Not the most important of which was that when I was home on maternity leave with my son, she managed to finagle the one part-time position that was available across the entire state of Connecticut. And I don't know how she did it. She negotiated the person who had held that position for like 20 years. They didn't even give them out at DCF anymore, but they had years ago. The woman who was leaving that position, her children were finally grown, and she was going to let go of her part-time position and come back full-time. And June negotiated, finagled, I'm not sure exactly how, to get that position brought to Hartford. And she offered it to me, and she said to me, "You do more part-time than most people do full-time. So if you want to come back part-time after your maternity leave, this option is available to you." And so I did. And it was beautiful to be able to come back to work 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, I think it was, and still have plenty of time to be with my, my newborn infant at that point. And then sometime later, not too much longer, I don't even think it was a year later, an opportunity came up to supervise the sexual abuse and family violence unit in Hartford. And she encouraged me to apply for that position, which I ended up getting, which required me to go back full time. But I'm so grateful for her seeing me, her recognizing something in me, and really supporting me and having my back. And, it's funny, I'm saying this right now, pretty straight faced, but honestly, I've been sort of in tears all morning, and I even hesitated almost coming on because I feel so raw, and I've been feeling so raw all weekend for several days now. And I've just been kind of laying low and allowing myself to just follow my inner guidance as to what to do. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just really allowing the energies to flow. So June was one woman. I won't go into as much detail with the other two, but one was named Eileen. She is the person whose psychotherapy group I joined when I decided to go into psychotherapy, which was something I never imagined I would do. And she is just such an amazing woman, friend, mentor, guide, teacher, musician. Like she's just such a wonderful person. And she taught me so much, really about being a better therapist, but really just being a better person. And at the time that I was with her group, which was from 2004 through 2011, did I leave there in 2000? No, 1994. I knew that was wrong. 1994 to the end of 2004. She was such a support to me when I was going through some challenges in my family situation, particularly with one of my children, who I love dearly and was not the easiest child to raise. And so she's another person. And then finally, the last person, actually, she was second on the list. She wasn't last. Is named Jocelyn, and she, back in 1998, our children were in school together, actually. She approached me about sensing that I had more in me, that there was some calling for me, and she became my first spiritual teacher. And was my first Reiki master. She attuned me to Reiki, and she was always on the leading edge. And this was back in the late 90s. This was not like there's a Reiki master sort of on every corner now, as there is now, which is a wonderful thing. But back then, doing energy work, really being interested in spirituality and metaphysics in a really deep and profound way, was not that common. And I'm so grateful. I haven't seen or spoken to her in years, but she popped up this morning as someone that I'm grateful to for having, again, seen me, recognized something in me, brought me into community, and taught me so many things and opened so many doors in terms of my own awakening, my growth, and my spiritual development. And so I wanted to come on this morning and talk about the importance of mentoring, and how that connects to motherhood. As many of you probably know, I lost my mom when I was 22. It was the same week that I was graduating from college. And so really for my entire adult life, right, as soon as I was sort of launching into the world as an adult, all of that has been navigated without my mother. And a few years after my mom passed, my father also passed. And so really navigating almost 2/3 of my life now without parents. And so what I realized as I was doing this exercise this morning, and we had the instructions were to speak it out loud to the person. And as I was speaking it out loud, my gratitude to each of them, I had tears streaming down my face, and recognizing that there were very similar energies, right, that I had felt from each of them. I had felt seen, I had felt appreciated, I had felt recognized, I felt supported, I felt like somebody had my back, and was willing to sort of go to bat for me and, boost me up in certain areas of my life. And also for me, in whatever way they did it, not that they were intending to, but they mothered me, right? And for, someone who, from a pretty young age, I wasn't a child, but 22 is pretty young to lose your mom. These women mothered me in whatever way they did that, or whatever way I felt that. I felt that they had my back. I felt that they saw me. I felt that they, oh, Tori, how sweet, that they recognized something in me that I couldn't see myself. And so I wanted to just speak to that, whether you still have your mom in the physical, or whether your mom has passed on, however old you are in that process. Even if our moms are still present in the physical, we don't always have, close, loving, supportive relationships where we feel seen or heard or appreciated or recognized for who we are. Sometimes roles get reversed, right? Because moms are just people, and they can't come into the world with their own challenges and struggles. And in some cases, children end up really parenting the parent, right? Or taking on responsibility for the parent's happiness. Or, there's so many things that can go sideways in our relationships with our mothers. I'm deeply grateful for the mother I had. She was very loving, very kind. I can't remember her really ever raising her voice, and considering that she raised 8 children while my dad, worked hard and traveled quite a bit, and 6 of those children were boys who did all the things that boys do, including one who, had a pretty significant, my brother Ed, mental illness. My mother handled it all, and she handled it gracefully. That said, there wasn't a lot of time for individual time with my mother, right? Because there were just so many of us. And, I mourn and I miss the fact that I didn't have the opportunity to get to know her as an adult, as I've gotten to know my daughter now, who's 27, and how much things have shifted with her. She was always great. We always had a good relationship, but we went through our stuff, especially when I made the decision to leave her dad. That was not easy for her. And, things were challenged between us for a few years, always loving, but not always easy, walking on eggshells a bit around each other, and how much that's changed now. And I wish that for the younger parts of myself, that I could have had that relationship with my mother, more into my adult years, and sort of seen that grow. I also mourn the fact that she never met my children. Now I'm going to cry. And that my children never met her or my father, who was also a wonderful person, who struggled deeply after my mom died with alcohol. And, but they were wonderful people who worked hard and, raised a family of 8 children. So anyway, lots of lots of raw emotions coming up about that. And I realized as I was sitting and reflecting on this afterwards, I was doing some tapping around all of it to just kind of move the energy and kind of settle it a little bit. And I realized that part of what is happening now astrologically is that there is this energy of the Divine Mother coming in. Because I was wondering, why is this coming up for me now, right? So strongly, because it's not like an anniversary date, right? It's not around the time that she died or was born or, my birthday or Mother's Day. We've sort of been through all that. And I was kind of curious about why this is all coming up. And I think this exercise of doing the gratitude, and really feeling the loving, mothering energy of the three women who came to mind to do this exercise with. But I also think that this energy of the Divine Mother that's coming in astrologically, and don't ask me the details because I couldn't tell you, but I have been reading a lot about what's going on cosmically. And I do know that there is a huge energy of mothering and the Divine Mother. I think it has something to do with Cancer, but, and all of the emotional stuff, right? I know so many people are feeling so raw and vulnerable these days. And remember, as I spoke about the other day, all of these layers, COVID and the racism and the protests. And I know for me, just continuing to do self-education around racism has brought deep sadness and sorrow, and honestly, a bit of embarrassment for the things that I didn't know and I've had to really open my eyes to and shift my perspective on. So what I want to say in sort of wrapping this up, because I know it's a little bit rambling. We started with gratitude and then we moved into mentoring, gratitude for people who have mentored me, and then mothering, is that as I was doing this exercise this morning, I so deeply felt how important these women were in their mentoring of me. I don't even know if they would have considered themselves my mentors, maybe, but not like in a corporate sense where, I'm going to move you up the corporate ladder or whatever. It was much more organic, much more of a different feel than that. And I just know how much of a better person they made me, how much they opened my awareness, in different areas of my life, how they allowed me and encouraged me to step into opportunities and then supported me in those new opportunities where I was growing and, it wasn't always easy. And really how they changed my life, right? I'm a very different person because of having crossed paths with these women. And I would like to encourage you, if you are feeling like there's something more, something different, whether it's something more that needs to be healed, whether it's something more that needs to be activated in you, whether there's a higher vision for yourself. Remember how important mentorship is. That's what I would say to you. And if you are feeling called to have someone hold that space for you, right? That mentoring space, that mothering space, that healing space, that activating space, that awakening space, I would be honored to pay it forward, right? As that was another thing that was very, very important to me as I was tapping and journaling this morning. It came through very clearly that part of my path, and I think all of our paths, is to now turn around, right? And offer our hands, offer our wisdom, whatever it is that we have been gifted from, in my case, mostly other women on my path, and offer that to the women coming up right behind me. Could be 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, maybe 10 steps. But to be able to just offer my hand and support them, see them, recognize them, hold them up, and have their back as you continue in your spiritual and personal and career abundance growth. So I think that's where I will leave it today. Yeah, so leave your comments below if there's something in particular that landed for you. Feel free to reach out if there's some way in which I can support you. And be kind with yourselves. Be patient. Give yourself space to allow whatever aspects of you may be feeling raw and vulnerable and shaky and lonely and afraid, sad, whatever's coming up for you these days. Just know it's all part of this process of healing and awakening, of allowing everything that's no longer serving us to come to the surface, to be healed, to be revealed so that it can be healed. We have another eclipse coming up on July 5th, and the energies, as I'm reading in this week, are going to be very powerful as well. So it's another reason I wanted to jump on and sort of give you a heads up. So if you find yourself being tumbled around, a little bit in the waves, just imagining that you're riding them, or allow yourself to get tumbled, and then do your tapping. Let yourself feel everything you're feeling. Let yourself process whatever you're processing. Let yourself intuitively give yourself the permission to take a nap, do some yoga, do some journaling, maybe do some work, go for a walk, right? Just lean in to what you're feeling as opposed to what you think you should be doing or what you have to be doing, because taking care of your heart, taking care of your emotions, taking care of all of the parts of you that are feeling raw and vulnerable right now, and practicing self-love is really the very most important thing that you can do. All right, my dears, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.